Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Deep Dive into RE Framework. As we've discussed, that RE Framework is Robotics Enterprise Framework, and it's a, you could say, type of template provided by UiPath, which has helped to build quick and efficient RPA processes. It's a well-written structure. It has a well-written structure that is used for building a robust large-scale solution that works based on different items on which it iterates. And we have deep dived into the init state, and now let's move towards the second state, which is the get transaction data. As you can see here that it is get the next transaction to be processed. So this is a structure which is by default when you select Robotics Enterprise Framework, if you go to Home and from here you select Robotics Enterprise Framework. So the typical structure which you will get by default is this one. So we have seen what all are there in the init state. And once we have initialized all the applications, like whatever login we have to do and reading the entire configuration file, and if everything in this particular state is successful, that is, there is no system exception and there is no business exception, then we move towards the get transaction data. So we have your get transaction data. If we look at this transition, that on what basis are we deciding that we have to go to this particular state? So this transition, if you see, you can draw any number of transitions like this. You'll just have to drag here and drop here. From here, you can rename it to be anything that you want to name it as success, or you want to name it as error. So here you rename it, and in the condition you write that what is the condition in which we are treating it as error. So this is how you do this transition, how you initialize it, or you could say make this transition. So it's nothing but you could consider it as an if else sort of thing in the simple language, and it's treated like that. Okay, if system exception is not nothing, that means you're treating it as everything is going fine, and that's what the expected behavior is. So if everything is fine, you want to go to the get transaction data. Now if we move inside the get transaction data, so let's see what all is there. So I just, okay, here we have. So if you read it from here, it retrieves a new transaction data to be processed. The transaction number variable holds the current transaction number, and incrementing this variable makes the framework retrieve the next transaction. If the framework is retrying a failed transaction, this variable is not incremented. So it's like if you have four things to be processed, now those four things could be anything. It could be a queue item, it could be four mails, it could be four rows of the data table, it could be anything. So the first row when it is reading, so it would have the transaction number is 1. So when the transaction number is 1, then it will be processing the first row. Now, as we increment the transaction number, that is, if first is already processed, we come here, we make it 2, and then the bot or the control moves to the second row to be processed. If we want to retry it, then we do not increment it. So if we just look here at the variables, so there are some global variables already defined in the RE framework. So you see here that there is this transaction number. You have this transaction item, which is by default queue item, but you can definitely change it according to the type you want to use in your RE framework. And then you have this transaction field 1, transaction field 2, and transaction ID and transaction data. So though these fields are already defined, field 1, field 2, ID, everything, but you can even delete it, you can even modify it if you want to add more, so you can even add it. So we'll come back to this, that what's the use of this check stop signal. So but first let's go into the get transaction data workflow. So we check here, if someone has stopped the signal, then you just stop it, and we set the transaction item to be nothing. So when we have set the transaction item to be nothing, so in that case it means that now there is nothing left to be executed anymore, and you can end the process. But if somebody has not stopped the process, that is, it's the else condition, the bot goes into this get transaction data or the else part of this if, and we're passing in certain arguments. So what are we passing in? So we are passing in the transaction number, which we are setting it as default to 1. So the transaction number default value is 1. So that means we are passing the transaction number as 1 because initially the first item has to be processed. We are passing the config, and this is the out item. So that means we are first sending in. So this is in, that we are telling the get transaction data, get us the first transaction. And here it is getting us the first transaction. So it's like in the Excel, if it's written in the first row that ABC, so we are telling here when we are sending an in argument that get us the first row, and here you will be getting what is the data present in the first row, and we are passing the config where all the configurable settings are stored, and then these are the field 1, field 2, transaction ID and transaction data. Now what this transaction data is, this is you are sending the entire Excel, that from this Excel get me the first data, then you'll say get me the second data, get me the third data. So you are telling that from which particular thing you have to extract each data. Okay, and yeah, that's it. Now, if we go inside this get transaction data, okay, so we are here. Now, here what it's written, if out transaction item is not nothing, that means what you're returning has some value and is not null. That means now what you can do is you can set out transaction ID to now.toString. So now.toString would store what in transaction ID? It would store the date time. So this particular thing you can treat as a timestamp, or you can, with the help of this, if you're making a status file and you write this out transaction ID in the status file, so then you'll be aware that my which particular item was executed at what time. So you would get the exact time. Okay, this particular thing was executed at 10 p.m. Okay, this particular record was executed at 12 p.m. and like that. And now this transaction field and transaction field 1 and transaction field 2, we are setting it as empty null. So instead of setting it as empty and using it, you can even, delete it, because there's no point, to store empty in it and, then just passing it out. So if you have anything like related to your process you want to store, suppose in some case you want to store that who has sent me this mail, if you are iterating on the mail, so you can store that thing in this particular transaction field 1, and you can even write this in your status summary file. But if your process does not demand, then there's no point of keeping it. And this is a best practice that you should delete the unused variables. So you can simply delete all this instead of just storing it. And now this is something which is already present in here, but you would also have to do this thing that you want the data to be extracted. So you will have to drag an if here. Okay, and you will have to tell it that, okay, so you have the transaction data table from where you have to extract the data. So you have IO transaction data. You would do IO transaction data dot rows dot count, and we'll check. So this rows dot count would work in the case when your transaction data is a data table. Okay, so ours is a data table. That means we are iterating on each row of the data table. And when are you going to, you will only keep extracting until and unless you reach the end of your data table. You won't extract further than that. Otherwise, it would give an error. So what you're going to do is you will say that IO transaction data dot rows dot count. So you would get that you have 4 rows in your data table. And now you will be extracting only till the 4th number. So that is your transaction number cannot get the data other than 4. Like it would not get the data of 5th row because there are only 4 rows in the transaction data. So what you're going to do is you will say IO transaction data dot rows dot count. Okay, it's like, to if you want to make it simplified, so suppose you have 4 row and your default value of transaction number is 1, so you will only be able to extract till 4. Okay, so you're gonna do is for is less than equal to your transaction number. Okay, so initially your transaction number would be 1. So it would be 4 is less than equal to 1. Sorry, not less than, but yeah, you're gonna do greater than. So 4 is greater than equal to 1. Yes, 4 is greater than equal to 1. So you would get the first value. Then you will increment your transaction number and you will check 4 is greater than equal to 2, and then you will get the second row value. Then you will increment it again and you will say 4 is greater than equal to 3. You will again get the value. Then you will say 4 is greater than equal to 4. You will again get the value. But next time when you increment the transaction number and now you do 4 is greater than equal to 5. So this thing is false. Correct. So what you're going to do here, you will say till my rows dot count is greater than equal to my transaction number. Till then you would want the row, or you could say the data present at that particular row. So you'll drag in and assign here, and now the data which you are passing is in the transaction item. So first you have to change the data type because you are playing around the data table. So what you get out of it is a data row and not a queue item. So queue item plays the role when you are iterating on queues. So I've changed the data type to data row, and now what you're going to do is that out transaction item would be IO transaction data dot rows, and now here you will be telling that which particular rows value do I want. So you will say rows, and here you will mention in the integer. So your integer would be in transaction number. And now here you will accordingly have to see. So you'll do a -1. Okay, because there is also this header thing, and also it all depends on whether you're treating your transaction number the default value as 0, or you're considering the default value as 1, or your headers constitute of 2 lines and you want to skip the first line before reading it, and things like that you have to keep into consideration. Also the index usually starts from 0 and not from 1, so you do this -1, and then you get the entire row in the out transaction item. Okay, but when this thing has exceeded, that is when you reach this case of 4 is greater than equal to 5, then that means you have consumed the entire data. Now you don't have anything left to process. So what you're going to do is you will say out transaction item is equal to nothing, that is make it null. Now when it extracts this data and come out of this get transaction data, so you would have all the details in the desired variable. And if there is any error in this, then you have already this try catch placed, wherein this thing will be locked and your transaction item would be made nothing. This means if there is any error in this, so any variable would not contain any value, or maybe would contain the wrong value. Okay. So now you see here that this variable, this thing got empty. So this usually happens that whenever you change the data type of a particular argument or a variable, so this particular things get empty. So you have to accordingly assign it. But as of now, you won't be able to assign transaction item because it's queue item. You have to make it first data row as we made it earlier inside the get transaction data. Accordingly, you'll have to change the variable type, data type. So if you have any error in this particular thing, so your variables would not contain the required value. So that means you cannot proceed because you do not have the data on which the processing has to be done. So it's better if you stop your process here. So that's why what we've done is we have assigned nothing to transaction item. Now you must be wondering that why are we assigning nothing to transaction item every time we want to stop it? Here also when you want to stop it, you have assigned nothing. Here also you have assigned nothing if there is any error. And inside also when you've consumed everything, you have assigned it nothing. So there's a logic behind it that why are we doing this? If you just scroll down, you would see the state transitions. And this is nothing but all the transitions that you drag in and attach it to the next state. So it contains all those transitions, which means that whenever there is a new transaction, so this new transaction is nothing like when I showed you that you click on it and you can even name it. So this is that name only, which you have put or which you have decided. So if there is any new transaction, that means you have a data to process. So you move to process transaction state. When there is no data, then you move to end process state. So whenever you are doing this, the transaction item is equal to nothing. So when it actually comes out of that entire thing and comes on this particular outer block, so what it checks, you see that there are only two ways for it to go from here. Either it could go to process transaction state or it could go to end transaction state. There is no other way. And always you have to design something like that there is always a way that there shouldn't be any condition left on which it is confused or on which it isn't sure that where to go. Okay. So it has two transitions going out. So if it has no error, it has the data, it will go here. If it has any sort of any error, or if it has no data, then it would go here. So whenever we have done that, wherever we have done that, the transaction item mark it as nothing. So which means here we are checking that if transaction item is nothing, you see the condition here that we're checking. If the transaction item is nothing, that means you do not have any data here. So which means that go to end process state and end the process. So what we're doing here in the catch block also, it's the same, that if there is any error, what are we doing is that we are making the transaction item as nothing, which means end the process. And we are even logging it here, and we are saying that exception dot message, and this is how you actually log. So this log message would come from the config, because you see it has mentioned config, then it's mentioning the key and dot toString, which means it would get the data from the config. It's mentioning the transaction number so that we are aware that at which particular transaction number it actually failed. It is mentioning the message, exception message, that what is the exception message, and it is also mentioning the source, that is exception.source. So what the source would contain, that it would name in the activity which throws the exception. So suppose this particular assigned throw caused an exception. So in the source, it would contain this thing that end process could not get new transaction. So the name would be there. And with the help of the name, you could identify that which particular activity has thrown the exception. So I have some of the questions and let's just check it out. So the first is, what is the use of check stop signal and what are the best practices to follow in get transaction state? Can we add more variables rather than the one that is provided? And exception handling in get transaction. So I just showcased the exception handling in get transaction, that in the catch you are making the transaction item as nothing, so that in case if there is any exception, you would end the process. And you can definitely modify it. That's not something hard and fast rule that you would always end it there. According to scenario and according to use case, you can modify this thing. Can we add more variables rather than the one that is provided? Yes, definitely we can add. I just showed that you can even delete those transaction field 1 and transaction field 2 here. And if you want to add in more to store the data, you can definitely do that. So I just showcased that, you can delete all those variables here if they are of no use. Also make sure to, delete it from everywhere if you're deleting it. So you must even come to this general business scope. And if you're not using all these variables, then it's better that you delete all the unused variables which you are not using in your automation scope. Okay. And what are the best practices to follow in get transaction state? So make sure that all the transitions are proper. That is, that there shouldn't be any condition left which does not lead to any state or it goes into an infinite loop. And also this particular thing where you are, extracting each row, this thing, should be chosen really wisely, and all this logic you're placing in here should be checked. You can, run it in debug mode and see whether actually it is picking up the right item or not. Also, yeah, and this check stop thing, what it is? So check stop signal is basically, suppose your process is, you have executed the bot and it is processing. Now, by seeing the orchestrator logs, it just realized that no, it is doing something wrong, it is doing a blunder, and I cannot let the bot process everything. Otherwise, that will be a data loss or a data manipulation in the wrong way. So you would want to stop it from the orchestrator itself. So when you stop it from the orchestrator itself, and if it is in the middle of processing something, it shouldn't stop there. Or so what it can do is that if it's in the middle of something, like it has picked up a process, if it has picked up a row and it is in the process transaction state and it is processing it. Meanwhile, you have realized, no, the bot is doing blunder, I gotta stop it. So you would just stop it from the orchestrator. So when it has finished that, the execution of that particular item, and would come back here now to get another item, so it would check that whether somebody has stopped this from orchestrator or whether there is a stop signal. And if it gets the stop signal, then it would stop it. It would say that stop process is being requested. It would log this thing. It would set in the transaction item as nothing. Even if you have remaining data to process, it would not process it. It would come out because the transaction item is set nothing. And it would check here on the main page that now where I have to go, whether I have to go to process the next item, or whether I have to end the process. So because the transaction item is nothing, it would go to end the process. So this is how the get transaction data works, and you can manipulate it. Also, you can add in more states here in between the init and get transaction in which you want to load the data. So this is a template only, which whenever you select an RE framework, so this is, you can say, the default template which is provided to you. You can definitely manipulate it according to your need and according to the need of the process you are working on. But these are the some things which you should know. Also, as per the considering the that point of interview thing in which where you are asked all these questions, the check stop signal is also very frequently asked in interviews, that what is the use of it, why do we use it. So this is something many people aren't aware of, but you should be aware of it. People do ask it also. Yeah, that, so these are the two default transitions. So sometimes you would even ask that there could any other transition also from get transaction data, or only these two are present. So you can say that by default only two are present, but that's definitely not a hard and fast rule. According to the need of the process and according to the automation which we're doing in, we can make in more states also, we can make in more transitions also. So these are the questions which you would basically get in. Also, sometimes it is asked that, okay, so what is the point of keeping that try catch logic in the get transaction state, and what should we do, what one should be doing in the get catch of the get transaction data? So you could say that there is a logic, because many a times it could happen that you're trying to read something and it is throwing some error. It could be an index out of bound exception, because you're trying to read from the row which is not present, so you get that error. And then in that case, bot would be confused where to go. So it's better that if we set in the transaction item is nothing, so then it has a state to go, because if the transaction item is set to nothing, it would directly transit to the end process state to end the process. So that's all for the get transaction data. And in the next video, we'll be covering the process transaction state, in which usually the entire business logic is placed in to process the data which we have just retrieved from the get transaction data. So till then, stay tuned and happy learning. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel.